Yeah, yeah, students, hello. There was some problem in the connection. So I've started this stream again. Yeah. Let me know if we can start with today's session. As you all know that we are studying logical reasoning and the today's topic is formal and informal fallacies. So as I already told you, our new batch for UGC Net Paper 1 for 2022 is going to start from 24th of April, where we provide you daily live lectures, okay? Notes, complete study material we provide you. So if you want to access the course, you can either download Global Online app or you can contact on WhatsApp number. The fees is given on the screen. And the evaluation test for today is LR003. So everyone it's a request to go and give the test. So I already told you the syllabus, what all we have covered. The topic that we'll be taking up today is formal and informal fallacies. This topic. Tomorrow we'll be taking up connotation and denotation of terms. Okay. While everything from Western logic we have discussed. Okay. Nothing is left from our side. After that, we are going to take up Indian logic. Okay. So this topic we are going to take. And before 24th, we are going to finish all the topics for logical reasoning. Entire unit will be covered. So first of all, what is fallacy? Fallacies are errors in reasoning. Whenever you see the word fallacy, you need to remember this term errors. Whenever you are doing logical reasoning and there is error in the argument, you call it as a fallacy. Okay. So fallacies are of two types. One is called formal fallacy, the other is called informal fallacies. So formal fallacies are students which have problem relating to the structure or the form of the argument, while informal fallacies are related to the content of the argument. Okay, getting? Formal fallacies are related to your structure or form of the argument, and informal fallacies are related to the content, right? Yeah. So what are formal fallacies? Formal fallacies are error in the form, arrangement, or technical structure of an argument, right? Question is not whether the conclusion is true or false, okay, but whether the form of the argument is correct or not. Okay, the form of the argument is correct or not, the structure if it is correct or not, that is related to formal fallacy. Okay, like if you look at this statement, true but invalid argument, like all cars are vehicles, you know that all cars are a kind of vehicle, so this is one premise one. Buses are vehicles, so this is another premise. The conclusion, all cars are buses. So do you think all cars are buses? No, definitely not. Cars are vehicles which accommodate 4 to 6, 7, 8 people, but buses they take up 50, 60, or even 100 people as well. So if you make the circle for vehicles, this is vehicle circle, this is car circle, because all cars are vehicles, all buses are also vehicles, so you cannot call all cars are buses. Okay, so the conclusion here is incorrect. Okay, the form, the argument is an invalid argument. Okay, what is a valid argument? A valid argument is that which in which the conclusion follows from the premises. Okay, the conclusion follows from the premises. So do you think here all cars are buses, is it following from the premises? No, it is not following. So here it is a fallacy. Okay, now if you look at another example, some men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. So here some men are mortal, this is a false statement, because we know all men are mortal. So this is a false premise. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. So this is also an invalid argument. Okay, not some men are mortal, all the men in the world are mortal. So this is also a premise. Okay, a false premise. Also, if you look at this statement, some men are green, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is green. So if you look at this, some men are green. So this is a false premise. Have you ever seen somebody who is green in color? No. So Socrates, some men are green is a false premise. Now, if I draw the diagram for this, I'm saying some men are green. Okay, some men. This is the circle of men. This is the circle for green. I am saying some men are green. And Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is green. So if you see, look at the man Socrates, he is somewhere in the circle of man. So he can come here also and he can come here also. So this argument is false because you cannot say Socrates is green, because Socrates can come in the circle of green also and non-green circle as well, right? So saying that Socrates is green is an invalid argument. Okay, it is a formal fallacy. Also, I've written here it is a deductive argument that is invalid. Okay, this is a deductive argument. Remember how to remember deductive argument, students? Yeah. So deductive argument is DGP. Okay, and inductive argument is IPG, right? So saying that Socrates is green is a kind of a formal fallacy. Now let's move on to another kind of fallacy, which is called informal fallacy. Okay, informal fallacy. So they are a matter of unclear expression. The fallacy in which the problem is with the content is called informal fallacy. Okay, now I am saying an argument may have logical form and yet be unsound because one or more premises are false. Okay, what am I saying? I am saying that one or more premises can are false. Logically, it may be right. Okay, in formal fallacy, the problem was with the form of the argument. But in informal fallacy, the problem is with the premise because it has one or more premises which are false. Okay, formal fallacy has problem with the structure. Like you see, here I cannot call all cars are buses. So this is a informal fallacy. Also here if I look at this statement, some men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. So even this is a, the premises are true, means you can say some men are mortal, but although all men are mortal, but if you draw the Venn diagram of this will be incorrect. Okay, fine. But informal fallacy has problem with the content. Okay, what is the problem? The problem is with the content of the argument. For example, uh, an argument may have a valid logical form yet be unsound because one or more premises are false in informal fallacies. An informal fallacy may involve what it has. It has misuse of language as words for grammar. So here this is what is the problem? Misuse of language, misstatements of facts or opinion, misconception due to underlying presumptions, illogical sequence of thoughts. So all these are what? All these are kind of a informal fallacy, students. Okay, they are difficult to stop and judging them require degree of subjectivity. What is their degree of subjectivity? Is the personal thoughts is there. So informal fallacies has problem related to content. Okay, I'm telling you again and again, student, the problem is with the content in informal fallacies. So there are many types of fallacies that we'll be covering today, and this topic has been recently added in UGC net syllabus. So the the chances of questions coming from this topic is also high. Okay, we in today's class, students, we are not going to take up MCQs, but we'll be taking up MCQs in the coming session. But theory will be covering all the type of fallacies. There are nearly more than 10 fallacies that we'll be taking up in today's class. Okay, so listen to all of them carefully. The first fallacy is fallacy of equivocation. What is the fallacy? The fallacy is called fallacy of equivocation. So this is also kind of an informal fallacy. Here, the use of word or expression in multiple sense in an argument which leads to wrong conclusion. So here what you are doing, you are using a word or expression in more than one sense and the conclusion that is coming up is incorrect. For example, logic teaches you how to argue. Okay, logic teaches to you how to argue. What is the meaning of argue over here? Argue is it means to put up a logic. Okay, to put up an argument. People argue entirely too much. So this argue word that is written in the second statement, it means to like one on one, when we fight with someone, at that time we do an argument. So that is a different kind of argument. Now the conclusion that is coming up here, therefore we don't need to teach people logic. So this is a kind of a fallacy. What is the fallacy? The fallacy of equivocation. When there is a word and there are multiple sense of the word in an argument, we are saying logic teaches you how to argue. Okay, you need logic. If you are talking to someone and if you are putting forward your point, that means you are putting up forward an argument. So that argument is different, and people argue too much. This argument is a kind of a fight. So these two words are having a different meaning, and this is bringing up the fallacy of equivocation. Okay, what is the fallacy? The fallacy is of equivocation. Next is a fallacy of amphibole or semantic or syntactic ambiguity. Okay, a variation on the above is when a word, phrase, or grammatical construction is used which can be understood in more than one way. So, fallacy of amphibole or semantic is quite similar to equivocation, but here where we are saying the word, the construction of the statement has more than one way. Okay, or more than one meaning. For example, there is a name of a girl. There is a girl named Lori. We are saying Lori calls her mother when she's alone. Okay, what we are saying, so let's take an Indian name so that we understand it more easily. We can say Rima calls her mother when she's alone. Okay, so here this sentence has two meanings. Rima is calling her mother when Rima is alone, or we can say Rima is calling her mother when her mother is alone. So here this sentence is having two meanings. Okay, Rima is calling her mother when she is alone means she could be Rima also, and she could be Rima's mother also. Here this argument is having two meanings, or this statement is having two meanings over here. So this is a fallacy of amphibole. Okay, amphibology. Right, now there is another example that is given over here that I've taken up for you is, last night I caught a prowler in my pajamas. So prowler is a kind of a thief. Okay, I am saying last night I caught a prowler in my pajamas. So when I caught the thief, maybe I am saying that I was wearing pajama when I saw the thief, or I'm saying that the thief came up and he wore my pajamas. Okay, the thief came and he wore my pajamas. So I'm saying last night I caught a thief in my pajamas. So there are two meanings to this statement. One is I was wearing the pajama, or the second meaning is the thief was wearing my pajamas. Okay, therefore, it is important to keep your pajamas locked up securely where no one else can get them. So, this is definitely a fallacy of amphibology, where we are using the construction of the sentence is in a way that there can be two meanings of the same sentence. Okay, first is Rima calls her mother when she's alone. So it could be Rima calls her mother when Rima is alone, or we can say Rima calls her mother when her mother is alone. So there are two meanings of this statement. Also, last night I caught a thief in my pajamas. So it could be I am wearing the pajamas. I was wearing my pajamas when I saw the thief, or it could be when I saw the thief, he changed into my pajamas. So this is also a kind of a fallacy where the word pajamas is could be used in my context as well, or I can say that the thief changed, uh, came and wore my pajamas. So this statement is having two meanings. This is fallacy of amphibology, right? Yeah, one more thing, students. Some students might be thinking, ma'am, what kind of questions will come? So, students, here in the examination, they can give you an instance, they can give you a situation, and they can ask you which type of fallacy can is it. Okay, so you should know all the important all these fallacies that I'm taking up, and also you should know the example based on it. Okay, right? So remember, two kind of fallacy we have taken: fallacy of equivocation, when there is one word is having two meanings, and the other is fallacy of amphibology, when the structure of the sentence is in a way that two meaning is coming out from a single statement. Okay, second is fallacy of composition. So fallacy of composition, it involves taking attributes of part of an object and applying them to the entire object or class. So if we are talking, if this is a whole object and we are saying something about a part of it, and we are applying the same thing over here. Okay, yeah. Some students are asking the difference between these two. See, here what is happening is, here one single word is having two meanings. Okay, in fallacy of equivocation, but fallacy of amphibology, here the construction of the sentence is in a way that it is having two meaning. Okay, the sentence is used or made in a way that there are two meanings coming upon on same sentence. Okay, so here there is single word is having two meanings, and here what is happening is, here one sentence can be understood in more than one forms. Okay, yes, they definitely sound same, but there is difference. Equivocation, same word having two meanings. Amphibology is having one sentence or words or phrase is put forward in a way that two meanings are coming out. Right, Shelly? See next. Fallacy of composition. Composition says that if we are saying something about a part of it, then applying the same thing on the whole is a kind of a fallacy. Okay, let me explain. If the premises is, if I stand, I can see better. Conclusion is, if we all stand, we can see better. So let us take an example. If there is a match, okay, cricket world cup is there, and everyone is sitting, and I say, what is the premise? The premises is, if I stand, I can see better. This is definitely true. If everybody is standing sitting and I will stand, then I can definitely see the players better. But if all people stand, then we can see better. This statement is entirely false, because if all the people in the stadium stood up, then no one will be able to see properly. Okay, so involves, if you are saying something about on a part of an object or class and then applying them to the entire object or class, this is a kind of a fallacy. The fallacy of composition. What is the fallacy, students? This is a fallacy of composition, that applying something that is applied on a part of an object will not be applied to the whole class of an object, right? Then we have fallacy of division. So fallacy of division is the opposite of a fallacy of composition. Here what we are saying is, assuming what is true for the whole must be true for each constituent part. So we are saying that something which is true on the whole is definitely, it is, you cannot say that it is true on part of it. Okay, you cannot apply something that is true on the whole, you cannot be sure that it is true on the part. So it is the opposite of fallacy of composition. Okay, for example, here the most popular sport in England is soccer. So you know, soccer is football, right? In England, the most popular sport is soccer. Tom is English, means Tom is a citizen of England. Therefore, Tom's favorite sport is soccer. So this is also false. For instance, you see, let us take the example of India. In India, the most popular sport is cricket. Okay. Now let us take an example of Rajiv. Rajiv is a boy. He is also Indian. So Rajiv's favorite sport is soccer. This is a kind of a fallacy. Okay. Why? Because Assuming what is true on the whole must be true on the part is a fallacy. It is a fallacy of division. Okay. Another example is, if I'm saying if water is liquid, then hydrogen and oxygen must be liquid. Okay. You know how does the structure of an water looks like. Water is what? H2O. Okay. What is water? Water is H2O. So we are saying H2O is liquid, then hydrogen and oxygen must be liquid. So we are saying if something is applied on the whole, then the same thing will be applied on the part is also true is false. Okay. If we say water is liquid, then we cannot say oxygen is liquid or hydrogen is liquid. So this is what? This is fallacy of division. Oxygen and hydrogen, these are atoms. Okay, what are these? These are atoms. So if we are saying water is liquid, then we can't say hydrogen and oxygen is liquid. So this statement has a fallacy. What is the fallacy? Fallacy means there is error in this argument. Okay, what is the error? The error is fallacy of division. So in the exam, if the exam is saying, in the exam there is an exam, a situation is there. If water is liquid, then hydrogen and oxygen must be liquid. Which kind of fallacy is occurring in this statement? So at that time you will say that fallacy of division is occurring. Okay, what is happening? There is fallacy of division, right? Now, what is fallacy of ascent? Okay, so fallacy of ascent is the stress placed upon a word in a sentence or a syllable in a word. It is called fallacy of emphasis. So we call it fallacy of emphasis also. Students, in many times whenever we say, like you might have seen, we say yes. Um, Many times we say yes as an answer also, and sometimes we say something in a word, in a way that it forms a question also. We say okay, okay. Like somebody says, "How are you?" We say, "I am okay." Or you can say okay, that is a kind of a question mark. Okay, so fallacy of assent is when stress is placed on a word differently, which brings different meaning to a sentence. Like if I say i I didn't take the test yesterday, so I'm saying this sentence means that I did not take the test yesterday, somebody else took the test yesterday. The second statement is I didn't take the test yesterday, means I did not take the test yesterday, I was doing something else. Third example is I didn't take the test yesterday. Okay, so I did something else with the test. Okay, the fourth example is I didn't take the test yesterday. So I'm talking about the particular test. The means particular. Okay, so if I'm saying I didn't take the test yesterday, maybe because I took some other test yesterday. Okay, now if I'm saying I didn't take the test yesterday, so I took something else yesterday. Okay, fallacy of assent, last example is I didn't take the test yesterday. It means that yesterday I did not take the test, I took it on some other day. So this is fallacy of assent. What is this? This is fallacy of assent. Another type of fallacy. Okay, so this is red herring. Red herring is a logical fallacy, the fallacy of red herring. So it is a logical fallacy in which irrelevant information is present alongside relevant information, distracting attention from the relevant information. Okay, sometimes what happens is there is an argument or the two people are talking and somebody is trying to put up a logic. Like two people are talking. It is morally wrong to cheat on your spouse. Why on earth would you have done that? So Mike, maybe Ken might have cheated on his spouse. So Mike is saying it is morally wrong to cheat on your spouse. Okay, why on earth would you have done that? So Ken is saying But what is morality exactly? So Mike is saying it is a code of conduct shared by cultures. Okay, so all the cultures in the world, they say that you should not cheat on your spouse. Now Ken is saying, who creates this code? See, what was the point of Mike? Mike was trying to tell Ken that he should not cheat on his spouse because this is wrong. Morally, it is wrong. But Ken, what he is doing, he is distracting the attention of Mike to irrelevant information. So this is called fallacy of red herring. What is this? Fallacy of red herring. Okay, when some irrelevant information is put up to divert from relevant information. Okay, now fallacy of ignorantio elenchi. So this is called fallacy of irrelevant conclusion. Though the claims and conclusion may be logical valid, but they do not address the point in the question. What is the problem? With the example, you will understand. Like the premises is saying, grade school children these days can neither read nor write. So many times you might have seen there are so many big schools. Their parents are paying such high fees, but children are not able to read or write properly. So the premises is grade school children these days can neither read nor write. Now the conclusion is saying clearly prayer should be returned in the classroom. So do you think if we start praying the children will be able to read or write? No, this is not right, because this is fallacy of irrelevant conclusion. There is no, the conclusion is absolutely wrong. Here the claims and conclusion may be logically valid, but they don't address the point in the conclusion in the question. Okay, this is right. Okay, prayer should be returned in the classroom. In a class the students should pray as well, but if the children pray, it will not help them to read or write. Okay, for reading and write they need to study hard, they need to focus, they need to have determination. Only then students will be able to read and write. So this is called fallacy of ignorantio elenchi. Now, fallacy of accident. Fallacy of accident happens when there is a general rule or thumb rule, but there is an exception in that rule. Okay, in school we have seen exceptions so many times, right? Especially in physics or chemistry, we can say in chemistry usually. So here fallacy of accident is something that is applied generally to all the situation, but there are exceptions as well. For example, if we say assuming that birds can fly applies to all the birds, therefore arguing even believing that a penguin can fly. So although we know that birds they fly, we know the birds can fly, but if we say penguin can fly, this is wrong. What is wrong here? This is a fallacy of accident, because general rule, in the general rule there is an exception. Okay, an exception is there. What is the exception? That all birds can fly. This is true, but there are so many birds who can't fly. That for instance ostrich is there, penguin is there, kiwi is there. These are many birds who don't fly, but they are certainly birds. Okay, fallacy of accident is happens when you apply a general rule to all the situations, even though there are exceptions. So this is also informal fallacy. Now you have straw man fallacy. Okay, straw man fallacy occurs when someone takes another person's argument or point, distorts it or exaggerates it in an extreme way. Okay, what happens here is a situation is there, or maybe two people are talking, but the other person takes the first person's argument and he exaggerates it so much. Okay, exaggerates means in Hindi we call it बढ़ा चढ़ा के बोलना. Okay, he is mainly unnecessarily saying too much about that point, or he maybe taking it to a next level. For example, first person is saying, I think population from humans contribute to climate change. Yes, I also know that humans contribute a lot to climate change. Like we use so much of plastic, we use so much of carbon dioxide we produce. Okay, there are so many industries and so many things we like fertilizers, pesticides, all these things lead to pollution, and it leads to climate change. Okay, climate change happens. Now second person is saying are directly responsible. So you think the second person is saying, right? See, second person is saying, you think humans are directly responsible for extreme weather like hurricanes and have caused the droughts in the southern US? So if that's the case, maybe we need to go to the southwest and perform the rain dance. So he's just second person is unnecessarily exaggerating first person's argument. The first person simply said one statement that I think pollution from human contribute to climate change, but the second person has exaggerated this. So this is a fallacy. What is the fallacy? The fallacy is called strawman fallacy, when someone takes another person's argument and exaggerates it to some kind of extreme way or extreme level. Now there is ad hominem fallacy, or we call it argumentum ad Mesicordium. Students, these are Greek names for this fallacy. Okay, Greek name. There are so many philosophers that we have in logic. You have Plato, you have um, so many other philosophers. They are Greek. That is why these fallacies are having Greek name. Okay, so you should know both names, ad hominem and argumentum misericordium. Okay, ad does not mean advertisement. Okay, don't confuse it with that. Okay, here what is happening is an ad hominem argument. It is used to counter another argument. However, it is based on feeling of prejudice, often irrelevant to the argument. Okay, so here what happens is we use somebody's others characters we use. For example, if there is somebody who has gone to jail, now even if this person who has gone to jail, now he has changed and he is saying something uh, good or something nice, still we will not listen to his argument, because are we question his character. Okay, so there is a personal attack on this kind of this is a fallacy in which personal attack is done on somebody's characters or motive, rather than to attempt the actual issue. Maybe the person who is saying, like this person who is gone to jail, maybe he's saying we should not do corruption. Okay, he's saying don't do corruption. So now I'm saying you have gone to jail, why are you talking about all this? So instead of taking his point of not doing corruption into sense, we are pointing out to the person who is saying this. So this is ad hominem fallacy, on which we are attacking on somebody's character. Now another kind of fallacy is appeal to pity. So appeal to pity, as you all can see in the name of the fallacy, there is sympathy. Okay, the person tries to win acceptance by pointing out unfortunate consequences that will otherwise fall upon the speaker or other. So appeal for sympathy or pity are mistaken as evidence. Okay, for example, this is a very nice example that is given in this fallacy. Listen to it, students. I am a single parent solely responsible for the financial support of my children. So there is some a man or a woman who is saying this. I am a single parent and I am taking care of the children. All the expenses I am taking care of my children. If you give me this traffic ticket is kind of a penalty that is given if you violate traffic rules. Okay, he's saying I will lose my license and be unable to drive to work. So he's saying if you give me this penalty, I will lose my license and he will not be able to go to work. Now he's saying if I cannot work, my children and I will become homeless and starve to death. So this is a kind of a fallacy. What is the fallacy? Appeal to pity. Here we are using sympathy and pity to instead of evidence. Okay, they are taken as evidence. So this person who is getting this traffic ticket, or you can say penalty, maybe he is driving wrong. So that is his problem. Um he should drive properly. So instead of pointing out that he is gaining sympathy from the traffic police. He's saying, I am a single parent, I am responsible for my children, and if you give me this ticket, I will lose my job, and my kids and I will not have food to it, and I will become homeless. Okay, so this is appeal to pity, right? Now, appeal to ignorance. Appeal to ignorance is when it is a fallacy that we accept the truth of proposition unless an opponent can prove otherwise. So we are saying you cannot prove the God that God does not exist, therefore God exists. Okay, so we are saying that something, if it is not proved, we cannot say okay it is true. Like, if there are so many people who say you cannot prove that God does not exist, therefore God exists. So, what we are doing is we are ignoring something that is not proven yet. Okay, if you're saying that God does not exist, you cannot prove it wrong, then you are saying the opposite of this. You are saying God exists. So, this is appeal to ignorance. It is called argumentum ignorantium. Now, there is appeal to force. So, appeal to force is also called argumentum ad baculum. So this is a kind of fallacy where someone uses his position or power to convince people. Okay, what you're doing is unfortunate consequences upon anyone who tries to disagree with a preferred proposition. So there is some people, what they do is what you do here is, in this kind of a fallacy, some people who use his powers so that somebody, if he will not, means anyone who is weaker to him, he will force them to believe. Like, if there is some person who is saying, if you do not agree with my political opinions, you will receive a grade F for this course. So what this person is doing, maybe this is a teacher who is saying, if you don't agree with my political opinions, I will give you F grade. So what is this person is trying to use his power or force or position to threaten the other person. Okay, okay. um, this fallacy, ad hominem fallacy, I've given the example, right? Here only I've given the example. Like, this person who has gone to jail, if he says don't do corruption, so instead of agreeing with his statement, I will start arguing with this person. You have gone to jail, who are you to say we should not do corruption? So this is an example of misericordium, right? So appeal to force also, you understood. Appeal to force, in this fallacy, a person uses his power or image to convince other people. Then another fallacy is appeal to authority. So appeal to authority is called as argumentum vericundum. So here in this fallacy, what you do is, somebody famous, if some famous person has given some statement, you suppose it or you believe in it. Okay, for example, we should abolish death penalty. Many respected people, such as actor Gay Handsome, have publicly stated their opposition to it. So, what is happening? Appeal to authority means, if some great people or famous people, if they are giving a statement, then you are assuming it to be true. Okay? For example, you can pick, I'm just giving an hypothetical example, maybe Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan, or Ranveer Kapoor, if they are saying something upon climate change or something like that. So, many people will use it as a truth, but that is not true, right, students? Why? Because maybe those persons, whatever statement they have given, it is not right. Okay, so if you say we should abolish the death penalty, many respected people, such as Gay Handsome, has publicly stated their opposition to it. So that is appeal to authority or argumentum vericundium. So this is appeal to authority. Now, appeal to emotion. It is called argumentum ad populum. It, in a more general fashion, the appeal to emotion relies more emotively charged language to arouse strong feelings that may lead an audience to accept its conclusion. So many times, what happens is, you might have seen in political rallies also. What politicians do, they use very strong language, they will use harsh words, and they will say things very strongly or loudly and with lot of emotion. So when these people they use strong feelings in their speech, the people try to believe in it. Okay, the people try to believe in it. Okay, this is appeal to emotion, right? Argumentum populum, when you use strong emotion to convince others to say that whatever you're saying is true. Now, hasty generalization fallacy. So, hasty generalization fallacy is also called overgeneralization fallacy. So, it is basically making a claim based on evidence that is just too small. Means there is a small evidence that you have. On that small evidence basis, you are giving a general statement. Okay, you are giving a claim. Essentially, you can't make a claim and say that something is true if you have only an example or true on the evidence. Okay, like if you have one, two, or three example, you should not make a claim. Okay, for example, if I am saying some teenagers in our community recently vandalized the park downtown. Vandalized the park downtown mean burned or broke. So we are saying teenagers are so irresponsible and destructive. So there was one incident when the teenagers they harmed the park. But on the basis of that example, you cannot call all the teenagers in the world irresponsible and destructive. Okay, there are so many kids out there, girls, boys, who are taking tuitions, who are going to school, who are taking care of the sick parents and their family. So even there are kids also, teenagers are also very responsible. So on the basis of just one incident, you cannot call all the teenagers as irresponsible. Okay, so you might have also heard that men, there are men who abuse their wives. Okay, physically they, you might have heard of domestic violence. So okay, there are people or there are men who beat their wives. So if you heard one case, two case, or three case, so if you say that all men are or all men beat their wives or all men perform domestic violence is absolutely wrong. So this is hasty generalization. So the word haste means anything that you do in a hurry. Okay, on the basis of just one or two instance, you are giving a general statement. So this is history generalization fallacy, where on the basis of a small evidence, you are giving up a claim, right? Now, slippery slope fallacy. So this is also one of my favorite fallacy, because you and me, all those students who are watching my video might have certainly heard this fallacy in their life, um, in one or two forms, okay, from their parents. So what in this fallacy happens, a slippery slope argument takes an initial premise and sees it through a chain of consequences until you arrive at an unacceptable, undesirable, or disastrous outcome. Okay, so a small kid, okay, a like a 10-year boy or a girl, you are saying, telling that kid, you are saying, as a parent, you are saying that if you don't do homework, you will fail in the class. Now you are saying, if you fail in this class, you won't graduate from school. If you don't graduate, you won't get into college. If you don't get a good college, you won't get a good job. If you don't get a good job, you will be poor and homeless. And if you don't want to be poor and homeless, do you? So what is happening is, this poor kid means, I feel pity on kids. He did not do homework. That is wrong on his part. But taking this not doing homework to being poor and homeless is a very big statement. Okay. So many parents they do. What is this? This is slippery slope. So you take one point and from that point you go to some hypothetical situation only. Okay, this poor bichara kid, he did not do his homework. So you are saying, okay, if you don't do homework, you won't pass to school. If you don't pass to school, you won't go to college. If you don't graduate, you won't get good college. If you don't have good uh, if you don't go to good college, you won't have good job. And if you don't have good job, you will be poor and homeless. So this is slippery slope fallacy, very good fallacy. We have heard of it many times in our lives, right? Yeah. Please let me know in the comments if you have heard of this kind of situation or this kind of statement from your parents. Yeah. Next is false dilemma fallacy. So false dilemma fallacy is black and white fallacy or either or fallacy. Okay. So here what happens is the false dilemma fallacy occurs when an argument offers false range of choices and that require you that and requires that you pick one of them. So they give you two options in this fallacy: vote for me or live through 4 more years of higher taxes. So some politician is saying, okay, either you vote for me or you have to give for next 4 years or 5 years you have to give very high taxes. So what is this? This is a kind of false dilemma fallacy. You are giving only two options, okay, either or. So like some person politician is saying America, he's telling to all the people, love it or leave it, or donate to my campaign if you care about your future. It means like many times you might have heard beggars also using this statement. uh, if you will give me, God will help you. So does it mean that if you don't give me, God will not help you? So what is this false dilemma fallacy? Dilemma means confusion, okay, when you have two options and you're confused. So this is black and white thinking or either or fallacy. Okay. Post hoc fallacy. So it means after this, therefore, because of this. So in this, what happens is it is a fallacy, logical fallacy when event B happens after a person might think A must have caused B event. Like if you are saying the rooster crows immediately before sunrise. So you everyone knows that rooster you say means a female a rooster, you might have heard him before sunrise. So if rooster is saying before sunrise, does that mean that rooster is causing sunrise? So this is post hoc fallacy. Then B event is coming after A event, you think, okay, if A event A is causing B to happen, okay, rooster, he is saying loudly, he crows, and after he crows, then you hear then you see sunrise. So you think that rooster is causing sunrise. So this is wrong, right? Sunrise is happening on his own, rooster is crowing on his own. So if A is happening before B, you are thinking A is causing B. So this is fallacy of post hoc. Now, faulty analogy fallacy. What is faulty analogy fallacy? When you are comparing two things and they are necessarily not the same. For example, if a child gets a new toys, he or she will want to play with it. So normally everybody have seen this. If you give a new toy to kid, what he will do? He will play with it. So this is something so normal, right? Now if I say, so if a nation gets new weapons, it will want to use them. Okay. For example, if you give new weapons to India, so do you think India is going to unnecessarily harm Pakistan, Nepal, China, or Bhutan or Sri Lanka? No, because comparing toy with weapon is certainly wrong. Okay, you cannot compare these two things because they're entirely different. Comparing toy with weapons is a fallacy. So this is faulty analogy fallacy, assuming because two things are like in one or more respect, they are necessarily like in other respects as well. Right? Another fallacy is begging the question fallacy. So begging the question fallacy, it is also called when an argument premises assume the truth of the conclusion instead of supporting it. In other words, you assume without proof a significant part of the stand, it is a question. So it is called arguing in circle. So we are saying the example is very nice. Happiness is the highest good for a human being since all other values are inferior to it. Okay. So if you are saying that happiness is the highest good, then definitely all other things are inferior to it. Okay. Now, like you are saying happiness is highest, then everything is below it, right? Everything is inferior to it. So saying since all other values are inferior to it is a fallacy. Okay, this is called begging the question fallacy. Okay, so these were all the fallacy students that we have taken up with today's session. I hope you understood it, and you might have understood what are these fallacies. Okay, we saw so many fallacies we saw today, right? Formal, informal, we saw fallacy of equivocation, fallacy of amphibology, fallacy of composition, fallacy of division, fallacy of ascent. Remember where we were putting stress on different words. Then we saw fallacy of red herring. Okay, fallacy of red herring also we saw. We saw fallacy of ignoratio elenchi. Okay, then fallacy of accident when we were not looking at exceptions. Strawman fallacy when we were exaggerating other person's point of view. Ad hominem fallacy when we are attacking other person's character. Appeal to fallacy is when we are trying to take sympathy or pity from the other person. Then we saw appeal to ignorance. Appeal to ignorance is when you, if something is not proven, we are taking the other way of it. Okay, appeal to force when you are using your power to convince others. Appeal to authority is when you are using some famous person's quote and you think, okay, if he's saying something, that is right. Appeal to emotion is when you are using strong feelings in your speech or in your statement to convince others. History generalization means looking at one or two cases and giving a general statement. Slippery slope means you are taking one situation and you are giving an hypothetical a disastrous outcome of that situation. Okay, false dilemma is you are making the other person confused by giving only two options to him. Post hoc fallacy is when A is happening after B, so you think okay, A is causing B to happen. Like rooster crows before sunrise, so you think okay, rooster is making the sun come out, so this is also a fallacy. Faulty analogy fallacy is when you are comparing, if two things are similar in one or two ways, you think that they are similar in other ways as well. So comparing toy with weapons. Begging the question fallacy is like begging the question, it is called arguing circles. So happiness is the highest good for all human beings since all other values are inferior to it, so this is also informal fallacy. So if we talk about fallacy, this was it in today's session, students. Yeah, so if you want to join our UGC Net Paper 2 course for Economics, Commerce, Computer Science and Management, we have complete study material. In this course, paper 1 is free along with paper 2.